All right, so my name's Noah Vias. I'm the head of analytics for Realogy Holdings Co. For most of my life, I have been a management consultant, helping clients and customers become more innovative, develop new growth strategies, become more customer-centric. As an economist by nature and an economist by training, most of my work and most of my experiences resulted in helping clients do analytics in some sort. Back when I first started, it was quote unquote data mining and predictive analytics and then smarter analytics. And over the past few years, that's become machine learning and artificial intelligence. Approximately a year ago, I did what most foolish, ambitious, sometimes courageous management consultants do, which is we go internal. I went native. And I got asked to be the head of analytics for Realogy Holdings. Many of you may not know what or who Realogy is, but you've probably interacted with us in some way, shape, or form. We are the world's largest residential real estate company. We're the world's largest relocation company. We're the world's largest title management company. In New York City, Sotheby's Real Estate, Corcoran, Century 21, Coldwell Banker are our brands. Nationally, we also have Better Homes and Gardens and Climb Real Estate. And then we own a relocation company called Cartus, which helps most of the Fortune 2000 relocate and move their customers. So very, very many chances that if you are with one of these companies, you may have worked with Cartus as part of your relocation package, particularly if you've done some type of an international move any way, shape, or form in your career. So very, very complex organization. On top of that, we were a legacy corporation that once owned Wyndham Hotels, Avis Rental Cars. And I say this because our company has a history of being a holding co that buys up a bunch of random companies and then develops silos around them. And so with the real estate portion of the company itself and joining last year, I came in to lead an enterprise analytics function knowing that we were going to have lots of siloed business units, lots of fiefdoms, lots of different domains, lots of different legacy systems and challenges. And we were all looking to move to the cloud because, well, we want to do AI and machine learning. We want to do all the cool things that come with that. And so, of course, I thought, yeah, I'll solve this in my first year. And if you think about the principal part of our business, right, it's helping people find homes, whether it's to rent them, buy them. And we have two essential arms. We've got our franchise business, which is we license out our franchisees. So you can open up a Coldwell Banker franchise and kind of start recruiting agents underneath that and selling homes. Or we own our own agents, right? So we'll have agents that work for us. They're part of our own brokerage business, and they generate revenue for us. But if you think about that fundamental decision, right, of the buying a home and the journey that comes associated with that, and we'll substitute buying with renting, if that becomes more relevant, right? It's an incredibly disconnected process, right? And the journey itself comes in fits and starts. It traverses across lots of different devices, lots of different channels, lots of different domains. You go to Realtor.com, you go to Zillow, you go to StreetEasy, you go to a Coldwell Banker website. So a lot of different entry points that come in. You're searching for your home or your rental property in a lot of different ways. Eventually, you may end up interacting with an agent or broker. Depending on where you're looking, if you're looking in multiple different towns and the agent or broker you're working with doesn't cover all those towns, you may have 2, maybe 3 agents that are working with you. You may use a different agent or broker to buy or sell your home. So it might be 2 different sides of the relationship that's coming through. Right? And then again, the journey itself on how you buy a home, right, isn't always happening in one consistent move, right? It's not, it comes in fits and starts, as I mentioned. And I'll give my example. In 2013, I proposed to my wife. And in full honesty, I moved into her bachelorette pad. And for those of you who live with a significant other, moving into her bachelorette pad meant we had tons of closet space. Very, very lucky for a New York City apartment. I got 20 square feet. Not in a closet, literally an IKEA wardrobe that I lived out of. So of course, within the first year, I was like, yeah, it might be nice if we got something a little bit bigger, try to figure it out. We're gonna get married, so we said, hey, let's not move when we're getting married. Too much stress, don't need to end this relationship, just as it's getting good. And then, of course, we got married, and then still dragged our feet. And then we reached out to an agent. We said, hey, look, we're thinking about selling a place, we're looking about buying a place. Couple of different ideas in neighborhoods in New York City, maybe Brooklyn if we're really adventurous, if I can convince my wife to move to Brooklyn. And so yeah, let's start that journey. And then life came the way, we got busy, I was traveling, doing work. And then, 2016 rolled around. We said, oh crap, Like, we really, really are running low in space. If we think about having a kid, this space is definitely not going to be okay for us. So, okay, now we need to sell a place, we need to buy a place. Let's start this process. Let's start ramping it up. And in that time, we decided that, hey, look, to sell our place, we know an agent in the building, we really like him, and he's got a vested interest to sell this place at a high level, A, because he gets a commission on it, but B, he lives in the building, and just because he knows the building and the neighborhood really well, we trust him, so we're gonna go with this guy. And then we're gonna use this other agent that my wife worked with, who helped her buy this place, to help us explore a bunch of different neighborhoods, because she knows my wife's style and aesthetics and preferences, and because she knows my wife really well, and that's really helpful for me, so that I don't have to deal with all of this, we'll use Vicky to kind of help us navigate the home buying process for us. So 2 different agents handling 2 different aspects of our relationships. We put offers on 4 different places, 3 of which went into contract and that eventually fell out of contract. Eventually we ended up buying and selling a home in Brooklyn, decision that was made by my wife, which thank God. And we finally bought a home in 2017. So a journey that started with a moment of truth, right, in essentially 2013, migrated and completed in 2017 with 2 separate transactions with 2 separate brokers, all working in different CRM systems, all with different transactional processes associated with it, all with lots of different events that were happening, right? Did this guy show up to an open house? Did he search and query on Zillow? Did he reach out to the agent on Zillow to ask for information? Did he put an offer in? Were the homes that they were looking at, did they go up or down in price? Did they readjust the price on those homes? It's an incredibly complex landscape operationally that comes through. And as the world's largest real estate company, our data is supposed to be our biggest asset. Right? Our data and our scale is what's supposed to allow us to leverage the value and the impact that we can make, not only in the industry, but for our business as well. But if it's fragmented, if it's split apart, if it gets further fragmented by our brands, then it becomes incredibly difficult to do anything really useful for it. Particularly if we're doing advanced analytics use cases, spend a lot of time just bringing the data together. Right? And sometimes when we're bringing the data together, we find unresolved issues that make that even harder for us. Secondly, when we're doing actual advanced analytics work, whether it's feature engineering or developing models, the computational power required is incredibly high. It just takes a lot of time to train these models. It takes a lot of time to do the EDA. It takes a lot of time to do feature engineering. We have one particular advanced analytics use case that we started with, which is basically helping to understand which agents are going to be most successful in any given 3-year period. Right? It takes us 60 hours to put the ETL together on this. And to give you an idea, there's 1.3 million agents in North America. They sell on average 2 homes per year. So that means that there's about 2.6 to 3.2 million transactions that we're looking at on any given year. Large, not massive by any means, but large, complex, and difficult to go with. Now I start adding in things like, was the price readjusted? Did it change? Was the listing coming in and off? Did it change with the agent that was representing it? You're starting to amplify that a little bit. Now we look at this over any historical period, 5, 6, 7 years. Again, the data sets aren't, petabytes, but they're large, they're difficult, they're unwieldy, and if we're using legacy resources to pull this from SQL stores, it's hard for them to do that. Even the basic queries that we'd want to do EDA on would take hours, right? So painful, and hard for us to do true machine learning analytics on, right? And then most importantly for us, right, just understanding this relationship between the customer, the agent, our own internal operations is really difficult. We don't have a true holistic view of them, and therefore it's difficult for us to change the underlying business processes or the experiences that we want to engender without having that holistic view. And so as I came on board, I had a significant amount of experience with Neo in particular, working with a number of different clients on a number of different use cases, and I said, man, I think this is a graph problem. Very careful, where it's say, I got a hammer, I don't want everything to look like a nail, but it does look like this might be a solution for us. And I thought, you know what? There's a very good chance that one graph in particular might be able to serve multiple different use cases. And so we might be able to get a lot of value out of that and drive that value not just for the advanced analytics team coming through, but for some of the legacy teams that were doing reporting and dashboarding for the other business units, that they might be able to use this to better enable their lives. So for us, this came into saying, all right, how do we start connecting all of these different channels together? How do we connect all these events together with the different people and entities that are involved? And then where do we and how would we actually enable this to drive value for our business? And particularly, we have found 4 key areas and 4 key levers that I've been pushing. The first and foremost, I think we've talked about a lot today, right? Which is the data aggregation and curation aspect of it. Make it faster to do queries, make it easier to do more interesting queries. Just simplify that process from your BI and analytics perspective. A good aspect around this is we had a lot of analytical reporting around agents, right? An average production on the agent, what's the P&L, what's the revenue my agent's bringing in, how does that tie up to an office or P&L location or different profit centers coming through. So very good with just doing that. But if I wanted to ask the question just slightly differently, if I wanted to come in and say, what's the relationship between people who are selling, luxury homes, or we're looking at a mix of different homes, and I want to look at medium value homes in that neighborhood versus high value homes in that neighborhood, and understand the relationship between the profit margin and those types of homes, right? Because we want to make a judgment call or advice to builders or relationships who are coming in saying, hey, you need to invest in more affordable homes in this area because it's either more profitable for us, or they're selling faster, or we're highly concentrated in super high-end luxury homes, and there's a risk to that if the market goes down, and we want to make sure that we're kind of mitigating some that risk. I asked that question just slightly differently on data that's connected, and all of a sudden the queries that are increasing, increase in size, complexity, and difficulty, validating the data becomes an issue. So for us, the data aggregation piece was helpful because, again, just helps us to look at the data a lot of different ways, makes the life for my BAs, and again, the reporting folks a little bit easier. Machine learning and AI, right, for us, the feature engineering component on this, the native graph algorithms that we would use, or the ability for these features to power machine learning algorithms was incredibly important. And one interesting insight that we found out using graph theory was that the number of relationships an agent has with other agents in our network, right, is strongly predictive of whether or not we can mitigate attrition. So you work with more agents within our network, you're less likely to leave us, right? So really fascinating. So again, clearly it's the relationships that are coming in and the strength of that. Well, on the flip side, if we have fewer offices in an area, the relationships or the number of relationships that agents have is fewer. While we're doing all of this and we're trying to develop these predictive models to reduce attrition because keeping our agents, particularly our valuable agents, is really important to us, we're closing a whole bunch of offices. So that raises the question inadvertently, are we closing our offices to reduce operating costs and inadvertently actually improving our attrition risk, right? And if so, maybe the right answer is that we need to close our offices. And maybe we're closing our offices because the relationship and the way agents are doing business are different, they're more mobile, and so this, we can't really tell what the chicken and the egg is here. But if the answer is that more relationships, more deals where they're working together, helps them stay with us and helps them be more productive, then are there other ways we can think to help change the business model, the process, how our managers interact with our employees, our brokers, and our agents to help build and foster stronger connections and relations that might then end up getting us to the same spot that we were at. So again, an aspect of feature engineering that drove our models and helped predict attrition, but then resulted in really tangible actions for the business to test out. Finally, none of this is useful if it doesn't come into the hands of folks who can use it, right? And for us, this comes into 2 pieces, right? Creating tools and solutions for our brokers, for our agents, creating tools that will eventually get exposed to their customers, right? Our customers in some cases. But also help change services, right? Help change the actual experience that our employees are going through. Can we make their lives better, easier, faster? Can we provide more information to our agents to make their lives better, easier, faster, make them more productive, right? And what would that look like? And can a graph make that life easier? Can it make it more explainable, right? And then finally, again, tie this to the human-centered focus around this, which is, again, engender better experiences for our employees, engender better experiences for our customers, and then eventually use the graph to take a true operational aspect from our back offices to our agents and our brokers to our end customers so that we can get a true B to B to C view of that relationship and understand if the changes that we're making are actually having a positive impact. Now, one interesting thing that came out of this is, as we think about machine learning, artificial intelligence coming through, we want to test out whether or not the solutions that we're bringing into market have a positive impact or not, right? And one of the things that we inadvertently found was that as we tried to A/B test solutions, we would run into an issue, which is, what's the market you're solutioning in? When you're doing that A/B test, are we comparing apples to apples, right? And for us, since a lot of our business, a lot of our service requires the human component and the human channel, right? This isn't like a digital domain where I might be able to do a cleaner A/B test, right? There's so many different variables, so many different moving parts. And every time we invariably try to launch something in a market, I'd get questions that say, are we doing apples to apples, are we not? In one case, we were looking at Atlanta and we said, all right, well, we don't want to compare against two different markets because there's too many variables for us to compare. Well, if we go in the market, in this case, we were going to think about recruiting agents and trying different approaches in recruiting the agents based on our model outputs. Then the question was, well, how do you split that market? And now fundamentally, if someone's going to go to one office in Atlanta and get a different experience and a different set of answers, and then he goes to another office in Atlanta and gets a different experience and different sets of answers, then that's actually problematic for us. It doesn't actually help us from the A/B test, and from an operational perspective, it's not going to work. Well, interesting for us, from a graph perspective, we came back and said, well, what if we use the graph and the analytics we now have to understand which markets are similar, which offices are similar, and then use that to actually create a more informed A/B test. Not perfect, but again, just another way that inadvertently putting the data together in a graph helped to facilitate better experimentation, better design, and ultimately made it a little bit easier for us when we were validating out results for folks to trust what we were doing. So in particular, I want to talk about one specific use case. For this revolves around leads for us. And depending on time, I'll definitely take questions on other use cases. You catch me afterwards, by all means, ask me questions around this. But in this case, the issue that we're dealing with is lead conversion. And for us, there's a subset of leads where we provide a lead to an agent that's incredibly valuable, twofold, right? One, agents can go with lots of different brokerages. They can open up their own shingle and open up their own shop. But if we're giving them leads, we're giving them valuable leads, and we're giving them a substantial number of those leads, then conceivably that's a part of the value proposition that we would provide to our own agents. Secondly, they give us a bit of their commission for that. Therefore, these leads are a higher opportunity from a margin perspective. They're more valuable to the business as a whole. Unfortunately, our lead conversion was incredibly erratic. As we started to kind of investigate the process, understand the experience that's going on, we found out that we've got a call center, a service center that's basically allocating out leads that's going through, but they've got a really hard time, right? They get leads, it's coming from lots of different systems because of the legacy environment that they're dealing with. They got to copy and paste data, and then they got to move into 2 or 3 other systems, and eventually they go to this search window where they're searching for an agent. And a bunch of agent lists come up. It's quite dumb. It's based on information that the agents put in. It's not very easy or intuitive. They can't really easily compare and contrast the agents that are coming through. And then so inadvertently, you have a couple things, right? Either really good agents on this side are opening up tons and tons of windows, doing lots and lots of research to understand what the right agent is going to be for this customer, or they're just going with the agents that they know and just tossing a bunch of agents to, Randy and saying, hey, I know Randy, he's a good guy, I'm just going to give him about 10 or 15 agents, and eventually Randy will convert or not, and that's it, right? And 2 things happen there as well, right? One is it takes a long time between when a customer came to us and say, hey, by the way, this is your new agent, and 2, the agent that's being recommended might not be the right agent for that customer, that transaction, that neighborhood, and it's not an informed decision for us, right? And so for us, there's an aspect of, can we make the employee experience better and faster? And by making the employee experience better and faster, can we provide better recommendations to our end customers and at the same token, improve the business value that we have? So what do we actually do? When we put this data together around leads, we were able to connect our lead systems and our leads databases and all this information about what was transacted and what wasn't across lots of different systems with our agent transaction database, right? So how do the agents do themselves across all of the transactions the agents had themselves, along with customer information. Now, it's not quite perfect. We're not quite done yet. But here, it became a powerful view with just by putting all this data together, when a service center rep looks at the data and looks at the agent that's coming through, they don't have to worry about going through 15 different transactional systems. They don't have to look through and say, hey, I have the agent and the agent profile, but now I can match the agent profile with what the agent actually did, how the agent actually performed, and what information is coming through, right? And if we wanted to develop queries for them, they can do it very quickly. They can look at them in a couple different ways. Secondly, one of the things that we found out was that when they would do a search for an agent, because it was predominantly based on an agent profile, And in the agent profile, the agent had to type the zip codes that they were operating in. Now, depending on the agent, this could be really thorough, could be complete BS, could be a wish list, we didn't really know, right? But now we were able to connect this and say, all right, where did the agent actually do transactions? Where's the agent's home office, right? And then look at what the agent's actual preferences are. We're able to create features based on the proximity to those different elements so that it's incredibly unlikely that when a call center rep does a query and a search, there isn't an agent that's at least within the proximity that they're looking for, right? And this doesn't require them to have inherent knowledge of the various neighborhoods and the towns. We can all connect that for them, make their lives easier, create a much more informed decision. It also allows us, like when we're looking from a tooling perspective, say, what happens on the agent recommendations based on distance? If distance more or less important, if the town is more or less important, how would the recommendations that I'm creating change? And that ties into the tool for our call center reps in particular, which is, you've got a customer and you've got certain information for that customer. You think you know what's right and what's most important for them. Let's make it as easy as possible for you to see what the recommendations would be based on what you think is important. Eventually we can change that, we can make it harder, we can make it faster. But if you think the average sales price is most important for this customer, and you think and agents that sell within that price range in that neighborhood is really important, then let me give you a list of agents that sell in that price range. If you think the distance and proximity is important, let me show you agents that sell in that distance and proximity. You think luxury homes or waterfront properties are important? Based on how important you think that is, the agent list should change. And the benefit in a native graph for us was we could actually make it so that these call center reps could change those weights on the fly and see that recommendation change in real time. And that in itself was incredibly powerful to drive adoption, to drive experience. In some cases, they might have actually ended up spending more time now selecting an agent, but because we created an interface for them that made it easier, because we created an interface that lets them see how this is happening on the fly, right? They may spend more time on it. They definitely enjoy the experience a lot more, even if they're spending a lot more time. And at the end of the day, what they're getting is a better set of recommendations based on what we know about the agents at that time on how they're going to convert and they're going through. And at the end of the day, what this allows us to do is, again, not only move from the lead to the agent that's most likely to convert, but as we build upon this further, to start to go and say, okay, conversion's really important for us. You know, if we don't actually close the transaction, that's bad. But ultimately, we think that conversion will also improve itself, and the rationale for working with one of our agents will be stronger if what we're doing is matching an agent to a customer based on what we know about the customer and what those customer preferences are. Start moving beyond this home price of the home, start moving beyond the location of the home, but saying, hey, look, I'm looking for, modern homes in the tri-state area. I'm looking for apartments in Brooklyn, but I don't know which neighborhoods in Brooklyn I want, right? I want an agent that understands that I'm gonna take a lot longer to buy a home, or I wanna understand an agent that I'm gonna move super, super fast. I want an agent who's gonna work with me to search across properties, or I want an agent who understands that I'm super busy. I don't have the time to go on Zillow and StreetEasy, so I want them to take down what's important to me, find a bunch of homes, tell me which ones are important, and then come back to me and tell me which ones I should go with an open house, right? Lots of different consumers, lots of different personas, lots of different attributes, but having that dimensionality, understanding of our customer and what they're looking for, and then matching that to the agent in and of itself creates a better experience, a better matchmaking process between our agents and our consumers. That's just the business side of it, from the agent to the consumer. Now we take it on a flip side and say, hey, I've got managers for these agents. What's the personality profile and management style of my managers? How does that then relate to the personality and behavior profile of my agents? Can I then use this to not only match agents to customers, but agents to managers, and better associate them with managers that will either A, improve their performance, or B, provide them better coaching or support? And maybe the types of managers I'm providing and recommending to my agents will change as the agent progresses and matures across their career, right? Providing greater degree of operational insights to our field team. And then another extension of this came in, which is, all right, I got a selection of agents that are eligible for these leads, right? Some of them don't do a really good job. Our top quartile agents convert at roughly 12 to 14 times higher than the bottom quartile. Our top half, about 5 to 6 times higher than the bottom half. So immediately, one of two things comes in. First, stop giving leads to people on the bottom half for certain, right? And that improves business performance already. Now we can think through, do we want to coach the people on the bottom half, figure out why they're not doing as good of a job, or just take them out? But secondly, like, how do we find more top quartile agents? What's the similarity between those agents and other agents in our network that for whatever reason, we just decided we're not eligible for these leads? Can we create a data-driven process to bring them in and then continue to add agents that are going to convert at a higher level and higher performance? And then if I take that one step further and say, okay, now I know my agents that convert leads best fast, agents that are like them that I should start including into my leads program, make them eligible for leads, and now look at all of the agents in North America and look at agents that are similar to these agents who convert higher. Can I use this to inform my recruiting decisions? Can I take this to my field managers and say, hey, we want you to start recruiting these types of agents because they're going to grow faster, they're going to convert our leads, they're going to be our future performers. So in this sense, what started off as an initial use case to just help drive initial lead conversion, right, morphed into something far larger. There's an aspect around here around customer experience and customer transformation, right, for our employees and our customers. There's an aspect around this that drives operational performance and recruiting that's coming through, right? And then there's an aspect around this that basically says that we will better be able to manage our employees and be able to give them better guidance and better feedback. I think this, for me, is the incredible value of graph databases and Neo in particular, being able to operationalize this, make it real, make it tangible. I cannot speak more highly of what we are able to do, what we are able to accomplish based on being able to graph databases and Neo in particular. And then the final piece that I'll add is, and we haven't touched about it as much, is on the machine learning side of things, the recommendations that we're engendering, the models that we're developing. Surprisingly, we've felt very little resistance around trust around the algorithms, bias with the algorithms. I think part of that is using graph technologies, we're able to better explain why the solutions are coming in, right? When someone can see a list of agents that were recommended, double click on that agent and say, oh, I see all the zip codes that this agent just sold in, and all of these zip codes are either associated with the town that this customer is looking for, or they're associated with other zip codes that are very close to the town we're going for. Our call center agents will be able to say, okay, I can see why this is coming in. I see why all these top agents are coming in because they're all connected to a network of towns that are very similar to the type of town that my customer is looking for, or the town that my customer is looking for, or the office that sells to the towns that are coming through, or that sells these types of homes, right? And again, just another aspect of the versatility and the power of what we were able to do, what we're able to accomplish. And I think that, again, leads me to continually be an evangelist for Neo in general. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.